team. Welcome to the webinar. Thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you all here with us again. I am joined once more by the Loan Atlas team. We have Josh Metal, Tim Brahim, Jim Jurgens to talk all about strike rate. And of course, most of you are MBS Highway members. You'll have strike rate in your MBS Highway account. Make sure you pull it up during this call because we're going to be talking a lot about it, but also really good scripting strategies that you can use right away to make sure you're set up for the next refinance opportunity. Now, during the webinar, use the chat box, the Q&A box in Zoom. We'll definitely have extra time at the end for questions and hope you enjoy.
Well, welcome everybody. Glad to be with you today and to talk with you about probably one of my favorite business topics, I would have to say, which is database management, nurturing your past client database for refis, and maybe most importantly, establishing a strike rate. And I'm going to kick it off today, and I want to speak with you more from a philosophical perspective about your job description and ultimately what your job is. And then I'm going to turn it over to Jim Jurgens, who is a dear friend, a client, and an excellent loan originator who is using the strike rate tool in Highway very effectively. And then Josh Metal will back clean up with us in a little bit. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I want to share my screen, and I want you to see the title slide here, and maybe most importantly, the bottom of the title slide, which is the quote. So this quote is one of my authentic quotes. Database management is relationship management. Now, the reason that I wanted to start off by showing you this quote is because I want to change your frame. I want you to think about your business in a different way. At the end of the day, we're not really managing anything other than relationships, and those relationships are vital to our success long-term in our business. And when we think about it, I mean, your job is ultimately to be the manager of the liability side of the balance sheet of each and every one of your clients, as you've heard us say before. Now, let's take a look at that for a minute. So if database management is relationship management, and you have a job that is all about you managing the liability side of the balance sheet for your clients, it puts a little bit different perspective on where you spend your time and how you present yourself and what you're doing to educate yourself to make sure that you're doing your job correctly at the end of the day. So debt management is key. And I'm not just talking about the mortgage itself, although that's a key component because that's the largest liability that the client has and the one that you're most directly connected to. But we also need to be looking at it through the lens of all debts, all liabilities associated with this family that you're talking about. So their credit cards, their auto loans, their liens that they may have against their house associated with home equity lines of credit, etc. So philosophically, once again, database management's relationship management, and your job is to manage the liability side of the balance sheet. So with that in mind, let's go to the next slide. Whoops, I think I just screwed something up there. There we go. So one of the phrases that I used to say to my clients as a part of my normal scripting in my presentation at point of sale is, my job really just begins when your first loan closes with me. I want you to think about the importance of this statement. What I am sending a message to the client on is that I'm going to be proactive in staying in connection with you and managing your debt. So here's a script that I would use. We're recording this call. You're going to get to the recording. There's tons of scripting in the Loan Atlas, those of you that are Loan Atlas members, around this exact same topic. So I would say to the client, I'd say, Dan, if I'm doing my job correctly, my job really just begins when your first loan closes with me, because from there, it's my job to assist you in managing the largest indebtedness that you'll ever take on in your life. Most people that do what I do for a living just provide the debt and walk away, and you never hear from them again. And I'm not going to make that mistake. In fact, one of the things that I do is I am very proactive in communicating with you on a consistent basis and making sure that I understand any changes that have transpired in your life, and in an effort to consistently look to find cheaper money. At this present moment, we're talking about doing a loan for you. At some point in time, we're going to close that loan. We're going to have an interest rate associated with that loan. But there is a probability of interest rates being lower at some point in time in the future, and the ability for us to swap that debt for cheaper debt and save you and your family money and do some exciting things with it, with reinvesting it or reducing the term of the loan. So I would always set that up with my client as a part of my normal presentation, that I'm a debt manager, that I manage the liability side of the balance sheet. And this is a very important thing that each and every one of you need to be doing as well. Now, I want you to think about the importance of having influence over your clients, the importance of building trust with your clients. So I'll take you back to some of my best years. The last 4 years of my career, I funded over 500 loans each of those years. My best year was 676 loans. And north of 70% of that business came from my existing client database, whether it be clients coming back to me and doing another loan with me, buying a second home, refinancing, moving up, or introducing me to their sphere of influence. So let's rewind for a minute, just for a minute now. Remember, database management is relationship management. Remember, your job is to manage the liability side of the balance sheet. So one of the things that I want you to be thinking about is that if you're doing that effectively, if you're educating your clients, if they are fiscally more literate after having worked with you than before they started working with you, you start to build trust. You start to become an ally. They start to become an advocate of you. And we are literally building an outside sales force of people that are going to come back and refer us to friends and family members of them if we do our job correctly at point of sale and if we manage their debt for them on a go-forward basis and display the proactivity that is necessary.
Hey,
Hey, Tim.
Tim.
Tim,
Yeah.
your audio just got a lot worse. I don't know if you switched something.
Yeah, do you mind swapping the input on Zoom, maybe? I think it might have picked up a webcam mic or
Swapping
something.
It was really good before, and then it just got.
Yeah, I think it's just the microphone might have switched to your computer microphone
Okay.
versus the microphone in front of you.
How about now?
Better.
Better,
Is it
better.
better now?
Nailed,
Yep.
nailed it.
Got it? Okay, cool. I don't know what the heck happened there. Sorry about that. Is there anything, how long was that going on for, by
Only
the way?
for a few seconds, but you were
Okay,
you were,
cool.
You were
Thanks,
on a roll. So.
thanks for interrupting me. So you've heard me say this before. The easiest group of people to market to are people that have experienced you before. So your past client database is ultimately your gold mine. This is your annuity income stream. These are the people that have experienced you. If you've done a good job for them in not only providing them with education and securing financing for them, but then proactively establish that you're going to be an ally to them and manage that liability side of the balance sheet, that is where you need to be putting your money and where you need to be putting your time. And what I want to say about marketing your past client database is this. I'd rather have you send something than nothing at all. But what I'd really rather have you do is pick up the phone and talk to them on somewhat of a consistent basis, once or twice a year. And I'm going to talk about some other forms of communication to stay in front of them in just a minute. Okay, so let's go back to my deck and let's go to the next slide. I want to talk about educating your clients on the interest rate cycles. So let's look at this quote at the bottom, which is a very important quote of something that I used to say to my client before. Now, what I would share with clients at point of sale every single time is I would say to them, you know, Dan, the most important question that we need to arrive at an answer at over the course of this interaction is ultimately how long do you need to borrow the money for? A lot of people that do what I do for a living ask the wrong question. Some of them don't ask the question at all, and some of them ask the wrong question, which is how long you're going to be in the home for. Now, how long you're going to be in the home for is only giving us a partial answer to this important question. Because how long you're going to be in the home for doesn't take into consideration the cyclical nature of interest rates. What I want to make sure that you understand, Dan, economic factors and economic reports that come out, a lot of people think that this is just related to the Federal Reserve and when they meet, which by the way, they meet either monthly or bi-monthly, depending upon the cycle in the year. So the trading of mortgage-backed securities is something that occurs every single day. Now, what influences this up and down cycle? Now, side note, okay, just a side note off script here for a minute, is this is where Highway comes big time and handy for you. This is where you need to be showing the historical graph charts. When you're explaining this to them, you need to show them the cycles over the last 30 or 40 years. And as you're showing them the ups and downs, you need to be talking to them about what caused these movements. Okay, so some of the economic reports back on script that come out every single month, Dan, are things like the Consumer Price Index, Producer Price Index, Manufacturing Report, jobless claims, etc. Then there are the geopolitical factors, whether there's going to be anything happening, with wars and things of that nature. Every single day, mortgage-backed securities are being traded and interest rates are moving. The Fed only meets once every month or two. So there is a detachment here. The Fed has an indirect impact on the movement of interest rates, but not a direct impact. And it's critical that you're working with a professional that has a finger on the pulse. I am consistently tapped in to what's happening real time, hour by hour, every business day, as a result of a service that I subscribe to. This service is led by a gentleman by the name of Barry Habib, who has won 4 crystal balls, which means that he has been the most successful predictor of economic circumstance 4 different times over the last decade. And I'm consistently getting feedback from him and his team as to where we're at in the cycle and whether now is a time to lock or not.
Hey, Tim,
So
seems like you're
let's go
cutting
back
out a
to the
little
question.
bit.
What's that?
You're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if it's an internet connection, but you're freezing pretty bad right now.
Goodness, I'm
Currently.
so sorry. My internet is. How about now? Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah, you were going through periods where it was good, and then it would freeze, and we couldn't hear you, and then you would come back.
Okay. Well, hopefully I can slug my way through this, and I sincerely apologize to everyone. Okay. So back where I was at. Back in 2020, 2021, 2022, we all know that we had very, very low interest rates. When I was having these conversations back in those years with a client, and they told me they were going to live in the home for 15 or 20 years, that combined with the fact that we were at historical lows led us to believe. But now we're in a different need to take into consideration what the probability is of lower interest rates, i.e. cheaper money being made available for you in the future. And we need to establish what it is that target rate would be. So let's go off script for a minute. I know each and every one of you, because we've had a nice little reduction in interest rates, have had this experience and probably had this experience very recently, where there are people that you can refi, and now you've got to pick up the phone and call them and go back and forth with them and play phone tag with them and convince them that now is the time for them to move forward with refinancing. And they tell you that they've read in the news or that they've heard from their friend that maybe rates are going to get better, the Fed's going to lower sometime this spring, and they want to wait. I'm sure all of you have gone through that. And then there's missed opportunities. So what I want to talk with you about is the establishment of a strike rate. And let's talk about what a strike rate is. So I developed the term strike rate many, many years ago. And when I was a loan originator, I used to establish a strike rate with each and every one of my clients. As soon as we would close a loan, we would establish the strike rate for when it would be the time to refinance in the future, whenever that is. So here's the definition of a strike rate. A strike rate is the rate that it would take for it to be irrefutable that it would make sense to borrow new money. Let me repeat that. A strike rate is the rate that it would take for it to be irrefutable that it makes sense to borrow new money vis-a-vis a rate and term refinance, a debt consolidation loan, a term reduction loan, or establishing a strike rate with each and every one of your clients. And all the people that you've done a loan for in the past, you need to be picking up the phone and you need to be having this conversation with them. Look, one of the things that I want to make sure that I'm doing is that I'm proactively managing the liability side of your balance sheet. We are seeing reductions in interest rates right now, and there might be an opportunity in the future for us to be able to refinance your home. I want to run some numbers for you. Currently, we have you locked in at 6.75%. You show them the side-by-side comparison with the true cost analysis and highway, and you show them that if we get down to 5 7/8%, we've got a recapture period of, say, 6 months between the closing costs and the savings reduction. Or maybe what you're presenting to them is that you're going to make the same payment that you're making right now, wrap the closing costs into the loan amount, but we're going to end up prepaying the principal and knocking 3.5 years off the loan. There's different ways to structure it, obviously. But establishing a strike rate with each and every one of your clients is key. But here's why it's key. Because what I want you to avoid is having to sell them on doing a refi in the future when it makes sense to do so. That's not the way I handled it. I close that deal when they close their loan with me. And what I mean by that is this. If Jim Jurgens is my client, we just closed his loan right now, and we closed him at 6.5%. The conversation that I'm having with him is, Jim, I've run some numbers. Congratulations on your new home. I've run some numbers. The strike rate is 5 5/8. I'm going to proactively watch this for you on a go-forward basis. And as soon as that rate becomes available, we're going to lock you in. We're going to get you reapproved, and we're going to save you $287 a month. Now, Jim, one of the things that I'm aware of from past experience is this. People are busy. They've got their kids' soccer games. They go on vacations. They're busy with work, etc. And I don't want to run the risk of the opportunity being lost, because I've had that happen before where the client waits or the client wants to think about it and then rates go back up, because remember, they're traded every single day. And that's painful for me because now we're losing $287 a month rather than saving $287 a month. So what I want to establish is an agreement between us as to what the strike rate is and get your permission to go ahead and get you reapproved and lock you in when that rate hits. And you come to that agreement now. And this is the key part. So when rates drop, and if you've done this, as I've coached you to do this in previous calls over the last couple of years, when rates drop down to 6 1/8 and you see in your CRM, or more importantly in Highway Strike Rate tool, that you have 7 people who could benefit right now from refinancing down to 6 1/8, and you've already had the conversation with them months ago, it's not a phone call where you ask them if they want to move forward. It's a phone call where you simply assume the close. You simply pick up the phone, you leave them a message. You send them a voice text. Hey, Jim, guess what? I got great news for you. It's Tim Brahim with First Rate Financial. You remember the conversation we had 7.5 months ago about the strike rate being 6 1/8% and that it was going to be able to save you $287 a month? It hit. And I jumped on it as soon as it was available. You're locked in. You're reapproved. The next payment that you make on March the 1st is the last payment that you're going to make at $287 a month more than you should be paying. And I'm really happy to report to you that starting April 1st, you're going to be saving $287 a month. I'm glad to be able to do this for you. And by the way, we've established a new strike rate for you at 5 3/8. And I'll keep watching it for you. And as rates continue to trickle down, which hopefully they will, as long as 6 months go by, because I have to have a 6-month period go by, then I'll rewrite it again for you. So it takes all the guesswork out of the equation. It takes eliminates from the equation the need for you to resell refis in the door, plus all your purchases during the spring buying season. Okay, so let's talk about one other thing. I apologize, I'm totally screwed up here with my slide deck. Let me share my screen and let me go back to this. And I want to talk about one other thing. All right. So you need to be using Home Report, okay? Because you have to be staying in front of them every single month. Now, the power of Home Report is this. It's the largest asset they own in most cases, and it's certainly the largest liability that they have. So putting something in front of them that is a monthly report card showing them how that asset is performing is extremely valuable and critical to you fulfilling commitment that you made. You're going to watch the rates for this is going forward. And Highway is going to talk to you a little bit about what they have here in just a minute. Now, what I want you to be thinking about is that your job is to stay top of mind and to build loyalty, and that you need to make it a moral decision whether or not they go forward with you or they cheat on you. And what I mean by that is this. If you're staying in touch with somebody once every 3 to 6 months, you're hitting them with a voice text, you're voice broadcasting your client database, you're putting Home Report in front of them, they're gonna feel some type of moral obligation in most cases, all things being equal to go with you, or as long as rates are close if they're a rate shopper. But if you call them once every 2 years and they haven't heard from you, you've severed the relationship. They no longer feel an obligation to you. So some of the things that I used to do that are very strategically important that I want to share before I send it over to Jim is this. Number one, whenever You see a report that says points, but you know damn well that mortgage interest rates have gone up. Okay. You want to get out in front of that. You want to do a voice broadcast. A voice broadcast is no different than what, Barry and Dan do when you get an alert to lock. Send an updated market update to your past client database, notifying them of what the economic information is that's coming out and educating them on how it applies to them. So they're not making an assumption that you're asleep at the wheel. They're reading in the news that rates have come down and they're wondering why you haven't called them. The next thing that I want to share with you, and this is a Craig Strent strategy, and it's a brilliant strategy, and I couldn't agree with him more, is that every time you call your client and tell them it's not time to refi, you build trust. Most originators never make that call. There's no reason for me to call them right now. It's not time yet. We're at 6.5 and their strike rate's 6 1/8. No, that's a mistake. You need to discipline yourself to calling those people that are close and saying, hey, listen, I know that you've probably heard in the news that interest rates have come down a little, but we're not there yet. I just want you to know that I'm watching it closely. We're about 1/4% away. If you hear solicitations or you read things that have you intrigued about refinancing, you don't need to worry about that kind of stuff. I'm keeping a very close eye on it for you. Every time you tell somebody that it's not time to refi, you build more equity with them. You build more trust with them. They now start to view you as somebody that's truly on their team and an ally and not somebody who's just trying to sell them something. Finally, and in closing, before I go over to Jim, and I used to do this very effectively, is when you have that client who says they want to wait. We had this happen in September of 2024 and many times in the last couple of years. Rates come down, you call your clients. You remember that Fed 50 basis point reduction back in September of 24? We had a big MBS rally for 2 weeks prior to that. Originators were calling their clients saying, hey, there's an opportunity to refinance. Oh, well, I heard that interest rates are going to get better throughout the rest of the year. I want to wait. I'm sure you've all had that happen. When rates go up, your job is to call them and make them feel the pain. Okay, so when the Fed lowered by 50 basis points and rates spiked the next day, and anybody who didn't lock in because they were being greedy, most loan originators just let it go and they were frustrated and these damn people, they didn't listen to me. No, you need to call them up. Hey, Jim, it's Tim Brahim with First Rate Financial. I just want to give you an update. Unfortunately, interest rates have skyrocketed. We're up about 0.3% from the last time that you and I spoke. So the opportunity that we had talked about is no longer available, and it kind of frustrates me for you because we could be saving $287 a month. Just know that I'm going to keep watching this going forward for you. And hopefully it's not going to be numerous months at $287 more than you should be paying right now. But know that as soon as it's available, I'm going to give you a call. And can we get a commitment this time around, Jim, that 6 1/8 when we hit it, we're not going to walk away from that opportunity. You need to make them feel the pain of the greed that they were exhibiting, because that's what will get them to recommit to you and to move forward with you when the rates drop back down. Jim, let me send it over to you, buddy. And sorry again for my technical difficulties, everyone.
Well, Tim, thanks for that. Hopefully, can everybody hear me okay?
Sounds great.
Very good. All right. So when Tim and I started working together a couple of years ago, I had done a lot of this strike rate stuff wrong, right? So I would call them, I'd let them know what was going on, but there was no commitment there. I never really had them buy in because my process on the front end, I really wasn't letting them know that I'm the debt manager. So last year was a huge transition year for me. I restructured how I did everything, every call I made. I changed companies after 19 years and really got down and involved with the strike rate, all the MBS tools, and then started. And every call, I would talk to them about, I'm going to be managing your debt like someone manages your 401k. My initial call, we let them know about the strike rate. As part of our value add, we are going to help you manage this mortgage. We're going to let you know proactively when rates drop and where it's going to save you money. We're always looking for cheaper money from day one. Now, when I make they make that statement on the initial call, they look at me and go, I've never had anybody do that before, right? So as Tim was talking about, you're always selling the next loan. So then it becomes less about the interest rate right now, but the long-term management of their debt. So that's the first call. Second call, now we're going to pull up the real estate report card. We're going to go through the neighborhoods they're looking at. We're going to bring up the strike rate tool and say, hey, this is how our system's going to help you manage this debt effectively to make sure you're always in the right loan at the right time. We will let you know. Again, client looks at the goes, okay, they got something beyond just selling me some debt. As part of our process, we help our clients establish financial teams, your CPA, your financial planners, your attorneys for wills, trusts, and estates. And we bring that all together in one system to help them know that we're here in the long term. We're here and committed to be the most valuable people in the real estate and financial world, not just now, but for the next 15, 20, 30 years. So second call, we show them the strike rate. Third call, we call it our contracts call. We're reestablishing that strike rate based on the loan comparisons we're giving them. We remind them that it's not chasing the lowest rate right now. We're looking for the lowest borrowing costs over the period of time they're likely to have that loan. So as Tim mentioned, it is, how long do you think you're going to borrow this money for? Not, let's chase the lowest rate. So then you're selling the strike rate at that point. So if they go with the highest rate, lowest upfront cost, just know, let them know and feel confident that you're going to watch this for them and let them know. Post-closing, my team is going to establish a call for me with that client to actually review the strike rate. We may have closed at 6%. We're going to establish that strike rate at 5.25 on that call. Right. So now we are reselling the next refinance. We are giving them confidence that we're watching this, and we let them know this is what it's going to look like when it's time to refinance. On those calls, they're like, hey, Jim, just let us know. I'm still sending the video updates, letting them know. And Tim, that's something I started doing and letting them know now is not the right time. The response I get back from that, just let me know. Right. So when I still get the clients, when I do the strike rate, they'll be like, hey, I heard the rates are going to go lower. So regardless of what date I'm showing them, I'm pulling up the MBS Highway charts, talking to them about Dan and Barry, talking about showing them the savings, talking about the cost of waiting, but they just know more than we do because they do this once every 7 years. So I've made the phone calls, and this is something I recently started doing to where I'm like, hey, we missed out. Sorry about that. I'm going to reestablish the credibility that I have with you and say, hey, I'm watching this. We don't want to miss out. When it hits this rate again, I'm going to lock it in and we're going to get going. Do I have your buy-in from that? And they're all like, yes. They felt the pain of missing out. We had that, as Tim said, happen in September 24, September 25. Right now, I was looking at this, and because we've changed this process, Josh, I was mentioning this earlier, we've got 14, 15 deals for March already. That doesn't even include the 7 strike rate refinances waiting for me to lock it right now. So I've got 17 strike rate calls waiting for me to talk to them this week, all because I set up the process from the first call, establishing that I'm going to be managing their debt for them. Now, when you pull up the strike rate tool, when they made these changes, I love it because it's so simple to walk in there, look at your strike rate, click on it, and then it's going to take you to the refinance comparison screen. And then I make probably 3 or 4 changes to it. Let them know on the phone, here's what it is. I'm sending it to you. It's time to go. No more trying to recreate things from scratch, go look up the value and then start a whole new file in some other program. It's all right there. So I do all my calls from start over Zoom because I pull up my screen, I share my screen, and I show them everything we're doing to help them manage their debt. I can't tell you how many times I've had clients go, I didn't know anybody that did that. And then the other part is, how much do I need to pay you to do all that? That's value there because we use the tools that we have. And I learned a lot of this from Tim. I learned a lot of this from Josh, a lot of this through the Loan Atlas. But you combine those two things, the production you're going to have this year is going to go through the roof because your clients look at you different. They don't look at you as a debt salesman. They look at you as someone that's going to help them manage their debt and create generational wealth long term. So all it takes is a few tweaks on your process, so the tools you have here at your disposal, and your production is going to go through the roof. Josh, I know you would talk to me about some of the stuff that you guys are doing. Anything that you would add to that?
Yeah. Most clients think of mortgage professionals as people who sell debt. We have to use scripting and the tools in MBS Highway and the advice-driven approach that shifts the way people look at us from debt salesmen and saleswomen to advisors, to someone who is managing the liability side of the balance sheet. So we'll talk to clients frequently and we'll say something to the effect of, you might have a financial advisor. You may have someone giving you advice, a family member on the asset side of the balance sheet. but who's helping you manage the liability side? Who's watching for opportunities for cheaper money to help you restructure and reduce your global household debt ratio? For 99.9% of Americans, nobody's doing that job. Our job is to be your liability advisor and make sure you never miss an opportunity to create additional cash flow in your budget, which can then be invested to make your net worth drastically better and have a more comfortable retirement. That is the most fundamental difference between working with myself and choosing to work with anybody else. So a lot of it is just a perspective shift in having the confidence to say that we are different. Tim's always taught us our job on these phone calls is to get to know people, to get to understand why now, what's their true motivation, and to help them understand that we are differentiated from the rest of the mortgage industry because of the tools that we have, the knowledge that we have, and the way that we manage that indebtedness. Tim has always used this script that I've never forgotten, which is the day your loan closes, if I'm doing my job right, is when our relationship begins. That's the day I become your liability advisor and take on that responsibility for as long as you're in that home. So I would just double down on what you said there, Jim. And I'd also say that, you're using this strike rate tool not just as a post-closing tool, which is very powerful. You're using it as a sales conversion tool. You're using it to differentiate yourself from the rest of the people they're going to talk to up front. Because I guarantee you, most people aren't going to point that out in that initial call. Tim,
That's
back to
very
you. Go ahead.
So
Go
one of
ahead,
the
Jim.
things in the chat here they were asking about, somebody wanted to see the actual tool being worked on. Do you want me to share my screen and show you what I do with
Please.
clients?
Absolutely.
So let's do this real quick and let me know when you can see my screen. Got it?
Looks great.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So when you pull up the strike rate tool, and this is what you'll just go to the loan advisor, strike rate, and it pulls up the screen here. And this is someone, I talked to him, it pulls up, when he closed his loan, you can watch the tutorial on this, but I'll go through here and just make sure all this information is correct. So now we're basically 2 years out from this. And this is one thing that's added, the save and create refinance comparison. This makes it incredibly easy to
Yeah.
do this. You click on that, it brings up, excuse me, the refi comparison tool. You can go through here and edit, the taxes, the insurance. It's going to give you the estimated home value here. You can say the forecasted numbers there. If you know their existing loan, you can go through here and update that, whatever you need to. If you have their current mortgage statement, you can put the payoff in here. So now you come down here to the loan estimate or the loan options here, and you can put in your own pricing here. They're going to put this in here. So let's say you went in at 6 1/8, and you're just say you're not charging any points. You can select here whether you want it financed into the loan amount or not, which is nice. There's no manual figuring that out. If you know your costs, I know the cost on this guy was $49.50. If you don't know it, bring up here. You can go through and add in all the different costs you want right there. Okay. You can change, and I'm in Texas, so the title insurance is probably the most expensive thing that we do in a refinance. And then you can go through and update all this stuff and say, you know what, I'm going to update it. So now what's nice is it's going to give you all the numbers. It's going to show their cash out of pocket at 0. I can change the number of years I'm going to work with, as much as I want to hear. It's going to show me a monthly savings. And probably the biggest thing, excuse me, is the break-even point. The break-even point on here, 10 months or less, they look at that and be like, okay, that's when I know I'm going to be basically paid off this refinance. And the biggest thing and the biggest add, and the thing I love the most here is as you're a debt manager, the reinvestment strategy, all right, this piece here, I'm going to save $497 a month. What do I do with it? Well, I'm going to apply it to additional principal. So now it shows me I'm going to pay off this home in about 23 years. All because of how I restructured my debt. My number's the same, my payment's the same. But I've now taken this 30-year loan down to a 23-year loan. Or if I've got a financial planner that's actually managing it, so I can go in, I'm going to do the investment strategy. Let's say you've got let's just say 8.3%. All right. Now I'm going to have a freedom point out of this investment account in 268 months. Now I can save that, go back in here, go to review report, and I'm going to share. I can record a video if I want. I can send it. Now, here's the key. Get some water here. Sorry. When I send this to the client, the financial planner, and the realtor, because I want them to know that we are managing their clients' debts on a proactive basis. Now, what does this do for the realtor? The realtor then knows, hey, the Joneses are doing something. So then that gives them an excuse to call. The financial planner sees that I'm giving them $497 a month in savings and showing how I'm reinvesting that either in the house or guess what? Now we've freed up $500 a month for the financial planner to invest. So your financial planners love you and they're watching you do this for their clients. So this goes out, the client pulls up. Now I do all my calls over Zoom so I can pull it up and it's going to go through exactly, and we walk through this together on every call. So it's extremely simple. That's what I love about it. I was showing this to one of the loan officers that worked for me yesterday, and he's like, I didn't even know it would do that. So establishing your strike rate from the first call and then carrying that through your entire process will make a difference in how your clients perceive you and how those calls go when it's time to look to refinance.
And when you have a great interest rate environment like the one that we have right now, and we've had some nice reductions, you have the ability to have 2 years in one if you're ready. Like if you're organized and you're on top of it and you've established this agreement with all of these clients and you know exactly who to reach out to, you're not scrambling and trying to figure out who you need to resell, but it's like, these are the people that I already have an agreement with and I'm just calling to notify them. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, I know people, and I used to have locked in 60, 70 loan rates. I've already experienced in the past, and you know exactly who the people are. Of excellent questions. Like, I mean, they keep disappearing off the screen and I'm wanting to screenshot them.
Hey,
and
Tim,
what I'd like to do is just kick it over to Josh to have him
Tim,
tell
we
you a
lost
little
you
bit
for the
about
last, we lost
that?
you. You broke up for the last like 15 seconds. So just rewind back because we couldn't hear you that well.
I'm sorry. What was the last thing you heard me say? I'm sorry. My internet's choppy.
Boom,
today
boom,
for some
boom.
reason. Well, what I was saying is that I'm seeing a ton of amazing questions in here and I kind of want to like screenshot them because I want to answer everybody's questions because there's some excellent, inquiries. I want to kick it over to Josh, let him kind of close us out. And then I want to get into Q&A while we have, plenty of time to do so and we can keep coaching people.
Yeah.
So
Thanks,
Josh,
Tim.
go ahead and clean us up.
Yeah, Jim mentioned that he had over 15 locked loans in the pipeline to close in March. I just ran a production report while we were on this call for my production team. These are funded refinances that I attribute to the strike rate strategy from January 1st forward. So what is that, 7 weeks? Those are funded loans, not closed, not going to close, funded. We've got 32 units for $14,056,667 in production on top of all of our purchase business, of course. And I attribute that level of production that Jim is having and the production that we've had so far this year to three things. Number one, Tim has been coaching us on this strategy for 3 years. Number two, we actually made the damn calls. We got the client agreement on the rate and the payment savings that made irrefutable sense to take some chips off the table. One of the things we typically say with clients is, listen, if you're a gambler and you're in Vegas and you're up big, it makes sense to take some chips off the table. You can take more chips off the table later, but if rates turn around and go up, and then you go to the MBS Highway or the MBS trading page and you see how all those alert to locks and how we've lost all those gains in very short periods of time. If you didn't take the chips off the table, then you lost the opportunity to make that lower payment until rates hopefully drop again. So you're gambling. And if you look at that monthly savings and forecast it over 10 years, you're gambling with a very big number. So we made the calls, we got the agreement. And last but not least, we worked on our scripting. we became great at overcoming these objections like, hey, there's a new Fed chair coming in. They say he's going to drop rates. Shouldn't we just wait? Like, we got good at that. So over the last 3 years, we've moved from white belt to black belt. And in an environment where rates have been coming down, we've closed $14 million in funded refinances in the last 7 weeks. And I guarantee you we're going to close more than that in the next 4 weeks because, rates have done this over the last couple of weeks. So I want to walk you guys through an exercise real quick. And then I'm going to give you the easy button for implementing a strike rate strategy on all of your clients. But I need you to think through this for a minute. So bear with me and go through this exercise. I want you to close your eyes for a minute. I want you to focus your attention on your breath. I want you to take a few slow, deep breaths with your eyes closed. What you're doing is you're moving from the sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic nervous system. Slow, deep breaths, your heart rate drops, your cortisol levels come down, your brain waves actually change. You move from a chaotic brainwave pattern to a cohesive brainwave pattern. When you stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, you start to think clearly. Everything seems to slow down and you can be more strategic. Everything becomes clearer. And I want to just ask, I want to check in with you. Don't tell me the answer. Just become aware of how you're feeling right now. Now I want you to picture yourself, now that you've calmed and slowed things down for a minute, I want you to picture yourself sitting at your desk. You're building your strike rate strategy. You've been hearing Barry and Dan and Tim talk about strike rate, but you actually haven't executed on it. And now you're hearing the success that Jim and I and others are having, and you're sitting down and you're getting ready to build this strike rate strategy, and you're getting ready to call clients. I want you to visualize yourself sitting at your desk. How are you feeling in that moment? Are you feeling calm? Are you feeling relaxed about to make those phone calls? Or are you feeling kind of stressed out? Are you feeling unprepared? Are you feeling confused about where to start, what to say, how to overcome objections? Now I want you to picture in your mind that Tim Brahim is right there with you. He's sitting right beside you. He's ready to help you decide on your next steps. He's ready to coach you. In that moment, you're not alone. Okay, you can open your eyes. I want to ask you, was there a shift in your energy when you slowed your breath and you calmed down and you started to think about building this strategy? And instead of building and executing it alone, you had Tim Brahim sitting next to you to help you and guide you. That feeling of relief or excitement that some of you may have felt with having somebody like Tim or Jim or myself right next to you to coach you, that's what we've been working so hard on creating inside the Loan Atlas. We've created the Tim Brahim inspired Loan Atlas Sales and Scripting Coach GPT. I'm going to give you a little bit of a demo of this GPT, but it's like having Tim Brahim sitting next to you when you go to build this plan. But in this version, his internet actually works. So it's a better version than you even saw today, which is great. This is the look of the Sales and Scripting GPT inside of the Loan Atlas. So you can come into this GPT and you can ask it any type of question. Hey, the borrower just texted me, tell me your rate. What should I say? This GPT has been educated. It has ingested over 200 teaching modules that Tim and the faculty of the Loan Atlas has created. It has over 60 hours of podcast interviews that Tim has done. It has all the white papers that he has created. It has the Refinance strike rate master plan. Everything that we've created from a sales and scripting coach perspective inside the Loan Atlas has been ingested with this inside this GPT. And it's like having Tim Brahim sitting next to you. So this is an example. I was just running a scenario, testing the system this morning, and I said, help me with the scripting. I need to make clients understand the value of setting a strike rate and agreeing to lock the rate before it becomes available, before the rate is available in the market. Then it asked me some questions. I answered the questions. Then it's going to go back and it's going to advise me as if Tim was speaking to me. It's going to give me a diagnosis. It's going to help me overcome objections that I think rates will go lower. I'd rather wait. It's going to suggest language and scripts around strike rates. It's going to give me versions that you can practice. You can put in your emails, you can put in your text messages, you can put in your recorded videos. It's going to give you the ability, or it's going to give you coaching on how to reframe the psychology of a good rate, which is one of the things that Tim teaches ad nausea inside the Loan Atlas. It's going to teach you how to create a verbal contract so that we have an agreement to move forward at a specified savings of rate or payment and how much they're going to take off the table by executing around that. It's going to give you coaching notes on what to emphasize, what to avoid. It's going to help you with your tonality. And then it's going to tell you why this system works and then give you a list of the resources such as the Refinance Master Plan, your 5-step plan to organize, capitalize, and close more loans in the next 60 days. This is a video as well as a actual Word document. It's going to give you the success scripts. It's going to give you interviews, and it's going to give you content to help you work through those strike break calls. Now, the reason why that is so incredibly important is because when you start making these calls and you start asking for agreements, people are going to throw objections at you and you're not going to have the muscle memory built. So this is going to help you build that muscle memory. And then as you get objections that you're not able to overcome, you're going to go back into the GPT and you're going to give the GPT that objection, and then you're going to work on it. It is going to help you move from a white belt to a black belt. And a lot of the questions that I see in the chat today are part of this refinance master plan process that we've taught. And you just have to get better at this. And it's worth it. Like, we closed 14 million already this year from this strategy. You're going to yield results from this strategy in a lowering interest rate environment. Also, I'll just add really quickly, inside of the Loan Atlas is a complete training on the refinance master plan, as well as learning documents. We have a complete written process for the refinance master plan, which is literally how to execute your entire strike rate strategy in conjunction with the strike rate tool in MBS Highway, and interviews with top producers. This is Eric Bible in 2020. This was in 2024. In 13 days, he locked $7 million of refinances with this strategy. Holly Walters, Craig Strent, and Tim, and this is a top producer roundtable. So we've worked really, really hard to create the content and the coaching that you need, and then given you the easy button with a GPT that you can put objections, help you write emails to set the appointments, and come up with a strategy. I'll give you just a couple more pieces of information about the Loan Atlas and turn it over to Q&A. I think where the rubber meets the road, I mean, Tim and Jim and I can tell you how great we think the Loan Atlas is, but where the rubber meets the road is at a production level. And over the last 10 months, ending in October 2025, the industry as a whole has averaged about $4.8 million in production over that previous 12 months. Loan Atlas subscribers have beat that number by 7.4 million in production, meaning that the Loan Atlas members has made about $74,000 in commissions more than a non-member inside the Loan Atlas. As a Loan Atlas member, you get 7 live 1-hour coaching calls every month. Over 200 training modules. These are coaching videos from Tim Brahim and a faculty who have written over $19 billion in production. An all-star faculty that's written over $29 billion in production. Scripts, presentation, AI workflows, the GPT that I just showed you. an active community to bounce ideas off of, and of course, the perfect loan process, which is where Tim teaches you to get in transaction referrals as customers are going through your defined perfect loan process. So for those of you who are interested in access to the GPTs that we've created, executing the refinance master plan, all of the coaching that we talked about, and access to Tim with his hour, he does an hourly coaching called Talk to Tim at the last Friday of every month as well. We've created a pretty excellent discount for you all. The loan atlas is typically $349 a month. We've married this with Home Report because, as Tim said, we have to create that ongoing communication and relationships with customers so that we can continue the relationship past the day of closing. Normally, that would be $518 a month for those two services. We've reduced that down to $269 a month, so almost a 50% savings there, and you get both memberships. It is an annual subscription paid monthly, and this pricing is available through Friday, February 27th. Tim, anything else you would want to add before we get into the Q&A, my friend?
No, I want to answer people's questions, but the only thing I want to add
But now, Tim,
is,
I think Jim and I are going to be answering questions. Unfortunately, I know. Oh man, poor Tim.
Tim, it seems like your internet works until you say something. No one's watching.
I think he's going to exit and come back in. All right, great. Let's go with some questions. Diane, Dan, Barry, what questions did you see in the chat that you want to answer, or where do you want to go from here, Barry?
No, I think that probably there's Tim. Tim is
Can you guys
back.
hear me now?
yeah,
Now we got you.
I
So go
figured
ahead.
I'd log out, and who knows, maybe it'll work. All I was going to say is, like, there's just so many great questions, and I'm itching to answer them. Like, I didn't want to interrupt anybody, but they're like way down the thread. So, like, if people could raise their hand, I'd like to take as many questions as we possibly can. And there are a lot of Loan Atlas members on the call. Talk to Tim is this Friday, and it'll be in an hour and a half. So if I don't get to all your questions and you're an Atlas member, I'll answer them on Friday for you. But, like, fire away. Let's do some help here, and teach some people further. Who has questions?
I think there was one on paying points on a refi, Josh. Is that one that you wanted to go to, I think, from before?
Yeah, I think that's a great one. So one of them, Tim, was in your strike rate, when you're setting a strike rate with a customer, do you sell that with points or without points? How do you think about points?
Well, that's a great question. So, look, what I'm about.
Sorry, Tim.
Yeah, you guys might need to take this one.
Depends upon the structure that you have with your company. You guys hearing me okay?
no.
Sorry, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, sorry, man. Jim, let me throw it over to you, and then I'll take a swing at it.
So when I show them no points with points, it really depends on where we think rates are going to head in the future, right? So we look at the borrowing costs of each rate over the period of time they're likely to have it. So if they're going to get into the fives, listening to Dan and Barry, you're probably going to have that loan a little bit longer, right? So if you're going to have that loan 5, 6, 7 years and you're past the break-even point, then it does make sense to invest the money now. Back when rates were at 7 and we knew rates were going to be coming down, there didn't make any sense to invest in points at that point. So as I go through this, I'll show them multiple options and then kind of show them the break-even point and let them kind of help educate them on which one makes the most sense.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Maybe
try with your video. Maybe try with your off.
That's why I turned my video off, because I saw the note there. Okay, just interrupt me if you can't hear me, okay? Because I have no idea if you can hear me or not. Look, a lot of it depends upon how you're structured, your comp is structured, okay? But I think what you should always be going for, to the extent that it's possible, is a refinance with as little fees as possible. And that might even be no points, no fees. And that is you paying all or a portion of the non-recurring closing costs with your overage money that you make for providing the refinance, and doing the loan for as little cost to the borrower as possible, especially in a declining interest rate environment. Now, when rates are at historical lows, that's a time where you want to pay your fees, and that's where time you want to pay your points if you're going to be in the home for a long period of time, because the probability of cheaper money in the future is much less. If you think about it for a minute, if you refinance somebody at 6 3/4%, 9 months ago and you had them pay their closing costs and say a half a point, you actually did them a tremendous disservice, because they can refinance again very soon here. And those fees and that half a point that they paid 9 months ago was a waste of money because they never recouped it. So I like to sell the easy sell, and the easy sell is break even as quickly as possible. And if that means break even today, because it didn't cost anything to do the refi and I'm saving somebody $200 a month, that's the easiest sell in the world. I'll take somebody from 6.5 to 6 at no closing costs all day long. Nobody ever counters that or objects to it. So that's my answer to it.
Yeah, and I would just add, it's not about us, it's about them. So we need to know, what is their objection? Like, is the problem in their life the fact that inflation has kind of squeezed their budget to a place where they're having a hard time making their monthly payments? Well, then maybe it makes sense to pay points up front to add it onto the mortgage, because they get a huge reduction in their mortgage payment. Maybe it makes sense to get them as much cash back as possible and still keep it as a rate and term refinance. Maybe it makes sense to close on a refi on the first day of the month so you can skip 2 mortgage payments. So, don't be so locked into one strategy or another. Be thinking about, what are the pain points for this customer? What's going to move the needle for them? I mean, think about it for a second. If I can skip 2 payments and my payment's $2,500 a month, there's $5,000. I'm going to get my escrow refund, which is another $2,000. And now I got $7,000. I can get them X number of dollars back and still have it count as a rate and term refinance. Now you're talking about freeing up $7,000 or $9,000 of cash that they can use to go pay off a car. They can use to go pay off their credit cards. And that's the last time they're going to be overpaying on their mortgage for the rest of their life. Inside the refinance master plan, we have a lot of scripting around overpaying. The psychology of overpaying or losing money is way more painful than is the psychology of gaining an extra $100 a month or $200 a month in your lower mortgage payment. So frame this as, by locking in these savings, it's the last payment you're going to make where you're overpaying your bank by $2,500 a year. And we're going to free up $9,000 for you to pay off those debts. That's going to save you X number of dollars in cash flow. So be thinking from their perspective, not just one strategy that works ubiquitously across all clients. We need to understand their needs.
Josh, let me take a question that's asked here by Melissa. Melissa says, how do you do a no closing cost loan? In the last 5 years, I've never seen the opportunity to do so between the following fees, lenders, et cetera. Yeah, well, we've had price compression, so there hasn't necessarily been a lot of overage money available. However, let me just walk you through the math on it. If it's a $500,000 loan amount and the client has a current interest rate of 6 7/8, and you can get, and I'm not saying this is available because I don't look at OB every day, so pardon me, I'm just giving you this as an example. Let's say that right now you could get that client 6.5 and get 200 basis points on the back end. Okay, that's $10,000. And let's say that their non-recurring closing costs associated with that $500,000 loan are going to run you $5,000 or $5,500 even. You pay their non-recurring closing costs at closing, you net the difference, that's where you make your money. You may say, well, that's less money than I normally make. Yeah, but you know what? We're building long-term relationships here. And you can turn a lot of those, and it's the easiest sell in the world. And I used to do them all the time. I used to do them on government loans where there's a lot of SRP on the back end. So I want you to be thinking bigger picture. And the other thing that I would say, Josh, to what you were commenting on, and you're absolutely right about like structuring the deal based upon what the client's needs are, is that it's really important that you understand if they want to pay their home off as soon as possible. Because what I used to refer to as a same payment refinance was a very effective sell. So it's like, look, here's your current loan. You've got 29 years left on it. Jim alluded to this earlier. I can rewrite you into a new loan, and you can make the same payment that you're making right now, and we can pay it off in 26 years and 4 months. And here's the big number is you sell the big number and save you $38,422 over the life of the loan. That all of a sudden becomes a very, very attractive sell for people. So you need to know how to structure the presentation, which is all the stuff that we are teaching you here, the stuff that Barry and Dan do a great job of. I mean, that's why these tools are so valuable. They'll make you a lot more money. Who's got the next question?
There's a good question here from Miguel. Do you ever use the escrow balance and skip payments to cover the closing costs? And the answer can be yes, but only if that's in the best interest of the client. In other words, if we're using 2 skip payments and a refund of the escrow account, they can bank that savings and then make a principal reduction. But what's their gain on making that principal reduction? Well, the gain is the savings of whatever interest rate the mortgage is at. So if the mortgage is at 6.25 and they're going to apply $7,000 for the skip payments and escrow refunds, that'll bring back down their balance, but it's only going to save them the 6% interest that they'd be paying on that balance. If the customer has a 9% boat loan, if they have a trailer loan, an ATV loan, a credit card loan, a home equity line that has a higher interest rate, then we would advise them not to put that money back towards the 6% debt, bank that money and put that towards the 9, 10, 20% credit cards.
If I could just add to that, one of the things I would always try and emphasize is, I know that you know this, Josh, and you're just using skip payments. You know that they never skip a payment, right? There is no such thing as skip payments. And when I was originating loans, now, yeah, it's been a while, of course, guilty, but I would beat my competition to a pulp when they would say and use as a selling feature the skip payments, because you don't skip payments, right? Payments on a mortgage, unlike rent you pay in advance, and mortgage you pay in arrears. So on the day of closing, you're making that payment half to the old lender, half to the new lender at day of closing. That payment's already collected, and then you're not skipping a payment. You're just the next first of the month. You already paid it at the closing date. So 2 first of the months later, you're making it. So I would always emphasize that and make it clear to the customer. Now, I know the context you're using it is from a cash flow basis, Josh. So that's why. But I just wanted to make the clarification for everybody. And I know you already know all this stuff, Josh, but I just wanted to clarify it so anybody listening doesn't come under the impression that there's a payment being missed, that there is just a cash flow benefit that, as Josh perfectly pointed out, can be used to generate additional revenue.
And the same,
great distinction.
And the same would be said about taxes. Okay, so I want to comment on the escrows for a minute. Like, I know that in some circumstances you have to provide escrows. I don't like escrows. Escrows make it painfully difficult for me to do my job. If I'm managing debt for people and I want to move people in and out of money, sometimes the escrow accounts get in the way, right? Because it's like they got to come up with a boatload of cash to do their refi, and it's uncomfortable because they're going to have to wait until they get the refund and all these types of things. So I would try my very best to do loans for people without escrow accounts. And with that said, if somebody's paying their property taxes at the later part of the year and it's a big chunk of money and you're refining them, this is an opportunity for you to say, hey, you know what? Instead of you coming up with that $5,600 for your property taxes here on November the 1st, there is an opportunity for you to include that in the loan. Yes, you are financing it, but it allows you to avoid having to write a check right now, right before the holidays when you want to buy Christmas gifts for your friends and family members. So there's different ways to structuring that, but Barry's absolutely right. You're not skipping anything. You're financing it into the equation. Who else has questions?
Tim, I've had a couple people ask about details of the discount of the combination of the 2 products. I think we should make sure we get Nancy's email address. So somebody from the Loan Atlas team, drop that in there. Nancy is our director of customer service. She can answer questions. If you have any additional questions we didn't answer, feel free to email Nancy at theloanatlas.com.
First to beat
and
me to it
Diana.
on Nancy. Yeah. And then I put
What
my
other
email in there
questions
too. Yeah, a lot of you are asking about bundling some MBS, some highway products together, like MBS Highway, List Reports, Home Report. Just shoot me an email. We'll take a look at it for you. And then if you have questions on strike rate, you let us know.
I saw a couple of questions on strike rate. Some people saying that they couldn't see the refinance comparison. One other benefit you get if you get this bundle, which includes Home Report, is that you get a version 2 of the strike rate that gets unlocked for you. And not only does it show you payment savings based on changes in rate, but because we're pulling the values of the home every single month within Home Report, we can look at the loan to value. Maybe they have MI, maybe they put 5% down, maybe they can either reduce or remove that MI. So we'll tell you if somebody's strike rate or somebody's ripe for a refinance based on both the rate savings and or the MI savings. And you also get that refinance comparison button that you can click as a part of that version 2. So some of you were saying you couldn't see it before. I just wanted to explain that as long as you have Home Report, you get all of those things unlocked. And when
Dan,
you
I
put
was just going to say the same exact thing. It's such a nice combo because there's a lot of people that would benefit from the MI savings. Often it's not contemplated. And even if you don't have the benefit as much as you'd like in rate, you might be able to reduce MI because you do have both appreciation and amortization. And we're contemplating that in giving you those statistics.
And there's a couple other things I just wanted to add with Home Report. I saw a lot of questions on some of these other products, how it differs. By the way, with Home Report now it's linked to the strike rate tool. So if you add people to Home Report, you're going to have all of their loan details on there. It automatically updates your strike rate. So you'll see all those people in there. If you set a strike rate, the language will change on the Home Report, which drives a ton of people to be interested in refinancing. But if they're not in the money on their strike rate, it's not going to say great time to refinance. It's going to say if you're getting close or it's not the right time. So those are linked. But compared to some of these other tools, listen, HomeBot, Home IQ, these are great products. But this is something that I think you'll find is a lot cheaper. There's some benefits where it's great to pair with an agent, get their database, give them these insights, and you get all that exposure. The agent doesn't pay anything, and you don't have to pay to pair with the agent. So there's no barrier to entry there. It has our data. I think we do it in a very clean way where some of these other ones could be a little overwhelming for a consumer. We're constantly enhancing this thing. We're actually going to be in the not too distant future, just a little teaser here, putting a score on each of the customers based on the activity and if they're saying they're ready to move or not, if they're looking at listings, if their strike rate's close. So you'll know where to even more so focus your attention on people within the Home Report. But it's a beautiful product if you haven't seen it. So many people have switched from some of these other tools. And besides the cost savings, they're saying that it's more effective.
And if I may just say something here, just like I just have to say it, Tim, Josh, Jim, and your whole team, you've had so many people do these calls for us, and we thank you because you give so much. But also the feedback we get from people that wind up signing up for the Loan Atlas is just like, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. It's been great. So I would just wholeheartedly tell all of you, and we don't endorse stuff from other people very easily. Like we'll tell you, we don't. It's not like we give endorsements because somebody. We're really really careful about it. I would say that Loan Atlas would be the number one thing I think that as a loan originator you should have to get the maximum amount of income from this industry that you can get. And there's a lot of wonderful tools out there, so I'm not saying anything else is not great, but Loan Atlas is I've seen it, and that's why I'm telling you, I've seen how it impacts people. I've seen people tell me that they're struggling in the industry because I go around, I speak to a lot of you guys, and then I hear people telling me how much they're killing it. And obviously a lot of people say kind words about us, but it's over and over and over again. Loan Atlas is making that big difference between having a tougher time and being able to really have like phenomenal months here. So I think you should try and consider it for yourself. That's all.
Barry, thanks for that. I appreciate the kind words very much. And one thing that we didn't hit, but I saw a question as I was scrolling back up through the questions, is how are we notified when a strike rate is triggered, right? So we have to have the scripting, we have to have the discipline to make the calls, we have to get the commitment, and then we have to execute. So, this is just an example of an email that came in yesterday This is a past client of ours. Their strike rate triggered. They're going to save $330 a month. And every day we're getting notifications as rates are going down. Like I had one the other day, Barry, where I had 13 bum, 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 bum strikes rates that hit. And guys, we made $140,000 in commission on executing this strategy in the last 7 weeks. Like it's an unbelievable amount of income that you're leaving on the table, that you're losing if you don't execute around this strategy. I can't even imagine how much money this tool has made people that are actively executing an effective refinance master plan strategy.
Well, thank you everyone so much. I think we're going to wrap here. If you have any additional questions, you know where to reach us and to the Loan
And
Atlas
by the
team.
way, guys, can I just say something? I'm just going to kind of just let you guys know. Look, as a Fannie board member, there's only very little I could say, but I want you to know that working on some stuff, presenting a lot of stuff. I hope some of it winds up working, but working on ways to have something out there that'll give you a big advantage on a lower offering rate for you. Have no idea if it's going to be able to fly, but be on the lookout. There might be something coming. When it hits, you'll know that you got the heads up here. But kind of like let Tim in on the inside on this a little bit. But I am working on some stuff, guys. It's really, really exciting, and if it happens, it'll be really rewarding. So we're trying to help as much as we can in a lot of different ways.
Got a hole in my tongue because I've been biting it for like 4 days since you talked to me about it.
We're trying. I promise you, working hard and trying. Promise you.
Well
Good to
done,
see
Barry.
everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, team. We'll be sending you the recording shortly. You all have my email, so reach out if you have questions, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you guys so much. Have a great one.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, team.